The first order of business is I will open the special meeting portion of the agenda. And the first item that we have is a special presentation from Dwayne Wilton and Chess Chesson on a 6-month update on the social district. The social district was passed summer, early fall, and we requested that we have a 6-month update to determine how that has been going on. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to Dwayne and Chess. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So after it's passed, we'll go through that. Town council requested a 6-month review of how everything's going. So town staff, along with executive director, we had meetings with ambassadors, talking to business owners, just gauging how the economic impact, if there's any incidences as we move forward. So first slide, outline. So we give ourselves a baseline, get the ambassador feedback, foot traffic data, any incidences, economic impact, and recommendations going forward. So as stated before, the social district launched September 2023. There are currently 60. Myself and Chess, we went to Goldsboro to the Main Street Conference, and I sat in trying to gauge and get an update of how the other municipalities, about the 4th time I've listened to other municipalities speak on this subject. Since we've passed ours at Edenton, there's been an additional 20 that have been added just in 6 months. No issues whatsoever in any of the other municipalities. In fact, they're expanding. Purpose of the social district was for a new and innovative way to increase economic development for new and existing businesses, and to offer a more streamlined aspect for special events within the social district. So we met with the ambassadors to gauge what they had to say. They're really the front lines, seeing every time social district is open. Whether or not there are any instances. Initiation of social district in the fall, therefore, this is their feedback, therefore it's been hard to gauge how the spring and summer will be impacted. Obviously, we won't have less tourism numbers in the fall and winter than what we'll see in the spring and summer. There is very little social district activity after 5 p.m. on Sundays. We have looked at their hours to really gauge going forward what will be the best use of their time. They requested to have Sunday afternoons off so they can go to church and do other activities. We've accommodated that. And we're also looking at really what the spring and summer will bring before we do any drastic changes to that. They have suggested larger signage needed, so I guess to make it easier to see from a distance. We do have signage at every street and also within the social district along the roadways to really help mitigate any confusion. We also offer QR codes on the signage where it links directly to our website. That way it's easy to see who is participating in business and stuff like that. And also this is something that's going to be easy that we're working on now is better communication between the event organizers and the ambassadors. Basically, direct communication instead of hearing it from a third party. So we're going to be working on that going forward into all the activities that Destination Downtown and other community organizations are putting together for the spring and summer. So there's been no significant change in foot traffic related to the social district. Foot traffic steadily increases from Sunday through Saturday, and I'll show you the graph after this. With the highest daily foot traffic, obviously coming on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Given historic data, we're able to conclude the impact of the social district over the course of the fall and winter. DD and town will continue to monitor foot traffic impact over the spring and summer. And once again, ambassador hours have been altered to mirror highest foot traffic times. So I know this is kind of a lot of lines and everything. I can, have this in your packet. It just basically shows what everybody knows that, Saturday's going to be the highest foot traffic, followed by Friday, Thursday, as you go down. Basically, historically, what it has been in downtown East. So there's been no negative impacts, incidents recorded. We constantly monitor it. We talk to the police chief, talk to the ambassadors. We've had 0 incidences. So that goes to show you that, you know, we're kind of mirroring what other municipalities have seen across the state. So the economic impact improved with the social district adoption. I'm guessing that these numbers come from Main Street communities, which says right there. 6% higher in private investment. We've actually had a couple businesses interested in moving to Edenton because of we had implemented a social district. 26% more net new jobs, and 40% more net new businesses. So we're hoping to see those impacts as we move forward. Jess and I are working with the, I guess, developer out of the Raleigh-Durham area to hopefully have, you know, some big news coming, you know, within the next 6 months, 3 to 6 months maybe, probably even sooner than that. So in conclusion, social district benefits small businesses, supports community events, increases pedestrian activities, and helps to invigorate business districts. Given its impact, no issues, it is recommended for continued operation. The town and its partners will continue to monitor and will bring council, as they requested, an update in 12 months to really see how the spring and summer, along with how the fall and winter have all panned out. The town did explore ways to make the social district better by considering recommendations by the ambassadors, police department, nonprofit partners, and the public. So, Jess, if I left out anything.
No, Dwayne hit the nail on the head. The biggest takeaway is that we've seen no negative incidents have been reported. No one's really abusing the rules. People are following the directions and instructions of the bartenders and the ambassadors downtown. We're able to monitor the foot traffic with some data provided by TDA, and we've been able to adjust the ambassador times to be most impactful when people are busiest downtown. We haven't, looking at the foot traffic data historically, we've seen an uptick in foot traffic, but we can't correlate that to social district. Candlelight Tour was the busiest it's ever been, and all of our other seasonal events have been above average historically, so there's no correlation to.
Don't just think you'll see more of an impact as the warm weather gets here.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. I mean, just in general, our tourism numbers are going to start coming up as the months get warmer. And we have more events going on, starting in April. The first week of April is going to kick off the event season here.
Does anybody else have any further questions or comments? We did request that we have this 6-month review, and we also requested that we have a 12-month review, and then we'll decide at that point in time whether we're going to continue with the social district. And so we look forward to hearing from you guys here in about 6 months, and appreciate the information you've given us tonight.
Just one question, Mayor High. When you had some of the conversations with the businesses around that, have they seen any type of uptick in purchasing? Have they seen that folks are receptive? Like, what are some of the comments you've gotten from some of the businesses that participate?
The businesses that were most hesitant to roll it out have seen no issues. The issues that they were worried about have not come to fruition. No one's having gangbuster social district beer sales, but every once in a while someone will grab a beer to go or a drink to go. When I talk to developers or people coming interested in Edenton to invest, they're already interested in the market, but when we start talking about, hey, we have a social district, that always perks them up. They're like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. Again, we can't correlate. Sorry, Tammy. Okay. We can't correlate any of that, but by all means, the communities that have adopted it have seen increase in net new businesses, net new jobs, and private investment.
During the summertime and the springtime, more people visit Edenton. Because right now, during the fall and the winter, even though trying to get a park downtown is hard anytime, but it's going to be more traffic than normal. Are we thinking about adding some more people onto this ambassador situation so that we can help the ones out that we got regulars, so we can have protection and folks looking around downtown?
So we have often gauged the hours that we keep the ambassadors to kind of mimic our seasonal, visitors, fall and wintertime things calm down, we try to reduce their hours. We try to match those up when things start to pick up for our parks, extended hours, longer times of days. We start bringing in, more groups. I do think we've had some posts for a lot of our part-time positions, the ambassadors, park attendants, as well as some of the trolley drivers. I don't know if we've hired anyone else new, but we fully support the idea of having additional staff members as we get more folks, or maybe more of an overlapping shift where there's multiple people during kind of those peak times, where maybe those are the overlap windows. But the chief and I will be able to work through that, and we should be able to support that. Yes, sir.
Do you have any problems retaining ambassadors on the job at all?
No.
So, good.
Okay, the next agenda item, I think we're going to call upon Chess Chesson again. This is a special presentation. Chess is going to be talking to us on behalf of Destination Downtown Edenton, and will provide us an update on the past year's efforts, the current projects, and what the future plans look like moving into the balance of 2024. So Chess, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. Thank you for the time to share kind of what DD has been doing in the past and what I've learned coming on to the role less than a year ago. So this is our new updated vision statement, which is something that we have been working on, working on our strategic plan for the next 5 to 10 years. As our current board of directors, when I came on in May, I think we had 2 voting members. And so we spent the time kind of re-looking at the foundation of the organization and building that back up and bringing in, thinking about what we want the organization to be in the next 5 years, and then bringing those people on board that can support our vision. Basic outline I'll go over a brief background for anybody not familiar with the Main Street program and what DDE does. Talk about using the 4 pillars of the Main Street approach to talk about what we've been doing over the past year in our upcoming projects. And everyone's favorite, Mr. Brian Vasquez, his latest spring windows on the Gorman's building. Very talented young man. So Main Street America, founded as a national trust for historic preservation, excuse me, in the late 70s, in response to kind of the malls coming across and pulling retail out of rural downtowns. Edenton North Carolina was the 3rd state to become a Main Street program, and Edenton was a Main Street organization in 2003. It has been one since then. The goal of Main Street is developing this 4-pillar approach for these rural, small communities to keep their downtown retail vibrant. We know the heart of the community is in that downtown. The heart of bringing businesses in is having that vibrant downtown mixture, keeping people here, bringing new people into the community. They do that utilizing their 4-pillar approach of economic vitality, design, promotion, and organization. Economic vitality being kind of the main pillar. The tagline is economic vitality through the lens of preservation. So the majority of our Main Street programs nationally are in historic districts. We promote historic districts. Our primary incentive for economic development is the rehabilitation tax credit, which is a 40% tax credit on rehabilitating projects for adaptive reuse, or taking these historic buildings downtown like we have and renovating them and making them vibrant again to service the current needs of the market. So for us, in the past 10 years, it's been that upper story redevelopment, so residential living upstairs, and then that first floor retail. Mixed-use retail, as we see downstairs. 5 years ago, Sears and these larger national brands were in rural downtowns taking up 8,000, 7,000 square feet. They're just not doing that anymore. They've changed their national strategy. And so trying to work with local business owners and building owners to think of creative ways to make use of those large spaces. In 2022, this is in downtown Edenton alone. So we've had $3.2 million in private and public investment downtown. I think that's $2.2 million of private investment in 2022, which came up to 3 net new businesses downtown, 4 historic buildings rehabbed, and 58 net new jobs. And we've had businesses close, this is all net new, so this is new economic growth in our downtown. 450 volunteer hours, which the state calculates at $26 an hour per volunteer. I think that equates to just over $13,000 in volunteer hours for DDE alone in our organization. And mind you, that was a time when DDE was kind of in a flux and turmoil. I probably logged that in the past 3 months with what we're doing developing our sound of summer. Yes, sir.
The two big vacant buildings, and there's another one, the question I get asked all the time, and you're the right person to talk to. Have we got anybody?
I will address that.
Huh?
I'll address that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
That economic impact and that investment equates to $40,000 in property taxes. This comes back into the town and county's payroll and their revenue, their bottom line. $78,000 in utility usage. Just under $2 million in annual payroll for those 58 employees. And 6 upstairs residential units, which has been one of our priorities over the past 5 to 10 years. So we know if we can turn a lot of our second and third floor building space is either office is fine, it's generating revenue, businesses, a lot of it's been storage. So the building owner is just storing junk up there. If we can turn that into residential units, we know if we can get a family of 2 to move downtown upstairs, that equates, this is 2019 dollars, so who knows what it is now, $20,000 in retail spending for a family of 2 moving downtown. So this, as Dwayne mentioned in the previous presentation, 2 weeks ago we were in Goldsboro for the North Carolina Main Street Conference. And every year we submit projects. We submitted 4 projects this year. And we're fortunate enough to have one of our projects downtown win an award for the best upper story redevelopment. And this was Dean and Scott Spruce's apartment above now Downtown Roots. So that building, they bought that building, worked with UNCG, which is a partner of Main Street, North Carolina Main Street, to help them design that upper story apartment. And then they worked with Down East Preservation to renovate it. And now it's an active, very vibrant short-term rental, Airbnb. 1 bedroom. And so that's what most of our upstairs, second floor, looks like, those bottom, top left, bottom right pictures. Just storage. Most recently, and thanks to the town and Hunter Chamberlain, we had, Timmy, who's here somewhere, has been at Surf and Fire. They're about to roll out their street fair, or street fest, I always call it Sunday Fun Day, I think, the block party, which is the first Sunday of every month. And they're bringing food trucks downtown, live music, moon bounce, something for the kids to do, table set up, and you can hang out. It's just something for the family to do on a Sunday. They've been hugely successful. But Timmy was paying $300 every month to get the power boards set up because the food trucks were running generators, and it was kind of killing the ambiance. So I worked with the town and Hunter Chamberlain. We got a local Vance Caliper to come in and install permanent electric utility hookups. So when the food trucks come in here, they can pay $25, plug into the wall, and they have power all day. They're not having to run their generators, reducing the noise, making the whole environment of the event that much better. And not even just with Timmy's events on Surf, Wind, and Fire, but now we have someone trying to do a food truck rodeo in the middle of July. They're going to utilize this space as well, making that East King Street space for more suitable for these public events. We can have people gather downtown and that place of gathering. That third place is what they call it. Not to forget about, so Joe and Stephanie, the building owners there, and then Tom Gardner, the building owner, were generous enough to let us install that on their building, which is awesome. So some current upcoming projects, and this slide might take a little bit longer than I anticipated. Sears Building is currently the new owners of that building, or they're not new, I say that. They've been the owners for a while. There's some potential turnover that was under contract at once, but it's the Jim Long, the Long family. They're working with Maurer Architecture to develop a design plan for the mixed-use retail on the first floor. They still don't know what they're going to do with the second and third floor, but they're working with, they'll break it up, and this is kind of the strategy for a lot of these larger downtown buildings. They'll break it up, have multiple retailers come in there. It'll be kind of an open courtyard. Food hall concept is the best way for people to visualize it. Elizabeth City has a handful of them. I forget what they're called, but usually when done right, they're really attractive and allow for businesses to come in there. Smaller footprints, so you don't have to lease 7,000 square feet. You can come in as a new up and coming business owner, lease 1,000 square feet, get off your feet, then move into a larger space or grow into that. Peebles is currently under contract as well. I call it the Peebles Building. Gordon's Building is what is on the wall right now, 213 South Broad Street. Under contract with a couple out of Cary, North Carolina. I've been working with them on the phone with them today. There's an underground fuel tank on the back part of that parcel that we're working through right now. So the sale will be contingent on that, on the outcome of that. But they came in, make my job easy. They came in, they want to do a mixed use, event space on the first floor with a retail up front, residential on the second floor, 60 units. So they're working through the pro forma, making sure it's feasible, getting quotes. So far, I spoke with them this morning, they're happy with the quotes that have come back from the contractors, and how that's moving forward, so.
Did you say 6 residential
Yes, sir.
units?
Mm-hmm.
How big will they be approximately? Do you have any idea?
9,000 divided by 6, 2 bedrooms, so a little bit of that common space.
1,500.
Yeah. Trying to make me do math in public. Over the past year, I already mentioned Dean and Scott's, the 2 upper-story apartments. Oh, sorry, we have 2 under construction now. Tom and Cindy Gandy's building, they're working on upper-story apartment above there, the Still Life. That'll be great. And then the old home of the Jovan Fashion Building, that's under new ownership over the summer. Currently the home of Miss Buckout's campaign, but that was intentional because they're working on the upstairs apartment now, and she'll be out in November. And then they'll roll in a new retail tenant that I hooked them up with when they bought the building. 4th South Broad, that's going to be Mr. Gardner's building, which everyone I'm sure has seen the great work being done. It's a beautiful building. I mean, gorgeous inside, copper staircase and a bar. He's hoping to be open. Dwayne and I met with him 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's working on his business permits with the state and with the town. He's hoping to be open May or June for a social club concept. Another one of our priorities, and this is kind of the statewide and nationwide really, is green space, providing, and COVID really initiated a lot of this, but outdoor space and having access to the outdoors. So working with the committee, the Waterfront Committee, the Harbor Advisory Committee, working on them to help develop a plan to help give access to our visitors and locals to be outside and move and walk. The state ran some numbers for me a few months ago. We're one of the most bikeable cities in the state. As far as where we have access to businesses and residents. We just don't have the best infrastructure at the moment, but even with our limited traffic, we're a very highly bikeable. I think we score in the 87, I think was the score, and we're a walkable city as well. Continuing to build those community gathering spaces. The third space is what it's called, where you go home, you go to work. What do you do in the meantime? How do you socialize and gather? And then another key driver that was established back in 2016 by my predecessors is public art and placemaking and a mural program downtown. We're revitalizing that now. The Arts Council kicked it off almost a year ago, I think, with a mural on their building, and we're working on a mural now that will be in conjunction with the first Sunday Fun Day, the first block party, April 7th, which will be Surf on Empire's 3-year anniversary. And Joe and Stephanie Walk, the building owners, have agreed to allow us to paint a mural on their wall, which will be beautiful.
Who will be doing that, Jess? Who will be the artist?
Matt Lively. So I've been working with Meredith Timberlake of the Arts Council, working with we're trying to build up our design committee again as someone to kind of field these things through and kind of develop an art plan moving forward. But the key takeaways on this, and we tweaked this in Goldsboro. We went to a couple of the mural placemaking sessions and making them interactive, making them on theme with Edenton as a town, outdoors, community space. So the fishing rod, if you notice it on the backs there, So that is intended to be an interactive picture, bringing in people, their children and visitors to come take a picture. Our branding will be there in the left corner, so they can share it on social media and send it out, and just increase the footprint of Edenton.
And Jess, he's the same artist that did the mural at the Arts Council.
He is, and we have all
That's
talked.
beautiful.
This will be
That's beautiful.
he's a phenomenal artist. But in the development of our mural program, this will be his last piece of work in Edenton, most likely. I'm just trying to share, one, we don't want it all to be Matt Lively, and his artistic theme. We want to differentiate that throughout the town. In November, part of the organizational piece of trying to, get community feedback, we rolled out a community survey. We had we had about 550 responses from the community, primarily residents, but also visitors that have come to Edenton and are familiar with it. And that was in lead up to a community meeting about our vision statement that we held here in this room. The largest feedback we got, I sectioned it off into age groups so we can kind of get a feel for what people want, but regardless, both age groups wanted more social opportunities, more music performances, and more events to attend. And on top of the music and things, they wanted a different genre of music, a diversity in the music that we bring into our community. So with that in mind, we're gearing up for our annual fundraiser, which is Boogie on Broad. And TDA put on Sounds of Summer last year in July, which was a huge hit. All free concerts, just free music for people to do in the area. And then evaluating those events, those are 60% outsiders, or people from outside of 27932 coming into those events, coming into our community and spending money. So this year, in partnership with TDA and some of our sponsors that we've been able to secure, we're rolling out a 4-concert series, the Sounds of Summer series, kicking it off with Boogie on Broad, April 26th, which will also be Easels in the Garden weekend, and also be the ribbon cutting for the ferry. So a lot going on that weekend. That will be a wedding band, Adrian Duke, whose saxophone player is Will Tinch, who grew up in Chowan County. He's from Edenton. In June, we'll have a reggae band coming, the Natty Lovejoys out of Tennessee. Their lead bass player used to play with Bob Marley in Jamaica growing up. In July, these summer events will be the first Saturday of every month. In June, July, and August. And the idea is to make those in conjunction. You have a full weekend of things to do when you come visit Edenton. July will be the Bonafides, which is a cover band out of New Bern, and then a Tidewater orchestra band out of Chesapeake. They're a 38-piece orchestra band, and they're both putting together sets for that day that'll be patriotic themed and along those lines for the 4-day July 4th weekend. And then finally, we have a bluegrass band coming in August, the Songs from the Road, which is really awesome. We booked them at just the right time in November, and they're starting to trend, and I don't think would give us the time of day now, which is always good. I like that.
And Jess, where will those concerts be?
So Boogie on Broad will be historically where it's been on Broad Street. At the top of Broad Street, we'll close South Broad, and we're meeting for about our layout today. The other 3 will be on the waterfront. The other 3 we're trying to tie in kind of the old music and water festival. So we'll have educational vendors, trying to get the Coast Guard to come participate, and then we'll have food and retail vendors as well in the parking lot over here.
It's good to have Bill Tinch come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's excited, which is awesome.
Chess, will the non-Boogie on Broad events require any street closures?
No, those we're using. I didn't want to not do Boogie on Broad. We're using but Boogie on Broad's a big event. We handle alcohol sales, we handle all the coordinating, all volunteer based. I think we have 48 volunteers right now lined up, and we're trying to get some more. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, you know where to find me. The other events, and this is TDA's model, we'll be partnering, because it's going to be right here, we'll set up the stage and tent, food vendors, educational vendors, and then the Herringbone will handle alcohol sales. We'll handle ID checking for the Herringbone, and then they're going to handle the beer sales.
Will that be similar to last year's?
Just like, exactly like last year.
Which seemed to be went very well.
It was great, yeah. Great turnout. So in understanding this, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit about the Boogie on Broad. I was trying to understand, do these events actually have an impact for Edenton? So we used Candlelight Tour as as our initial kind of formula, and just trying to understand the foot traffic and retail sales. So these are reported sales from retailers downtown, and the foot traffic, we saw a 50% increase over an average November-December weekend, which is already a heavily trafficked weekend in Edenton. Retail sales reported on average to be about just under 100% higher than an average Saturday, Sunday. And then I already mentioned that the foot traffic was about 60% from outside of the community, but that has grown 30% over the last 2 years. So we're getting more attraction from outside of that 27932. The 27932 foot traffic has been pretty steady over the last 3 years for Candlelight Tour.
Again, a lot of Virginia traffic too.
We're getting
Mostly Raleigh.
we're seeing traffic coming from Virginia, coming from Raleigh. Those are the big markets, yeah. Some Richmond traffic. I mean, the heat map on that's probably a whole other presentation, but we have people from Pennsylvania, from I think there was someone I had it all the way out in New Mexico. Pretty cool. Then I did something similar with the Surf, Wind, and Fire, the street party. So on your average Sunday, we know everything kind of closes down on Sunday. We have a lot of visitors here in Edenton that are waking up on Sunday trying to figure out something to do. On your average Sunday, when there's a street party, we have 40% increase in traffic coming downtown. And then 64% of that is coming from outside, from Elizabeth City, Hertford, and that kind of confirms what my thought was, that as visitors, you're needing something to do on Sunday. So jump the gun, this is, with that data, is what we're rolling out. So coming up, I already mentioned the Sounds of Summer stuff. We're also continuing the Sip and Shop, which is a promotional thing. We're trying to gear that around holidays. So this Thursday, the 28th, we'll have an Easter kind of Sip and Shop come down and support the retailers downtown. Will be open usually about 2 hours later than normal, and then we'll do another one right before Mother's Day. With that, thank you. Thank you for the time.
Very good. Does anybody have any more questions? Chess, thank you for everything you're doing. We also appreciate the information you're giving us.
Appreciate it.
Certainly helpful. The next agenda item centers around the 2024 Arbor Day celebration, and I'm going to hand this over to Dwayne Wilson to give us more information on the date, location, and specifics of that particular celebration.
So, as part of being Tree City USA, which the town of Edenton has been a participant in for 45 years, one of 3 communities to have been recognized for that length of time. We also received our 7th Growth Award, which means that we're doing a lot for urban forestry, planting trees. This is one step into being recognized again for the 46th year for Arbor Day. For Tree City USA. We're looking at, and I didn't realize how many activities are going on that weekend, but I guess everybody can kick off their fun weekend planting trees. So we will be Friday, April 26th at 1. We're going to do reason why we are doing it a month in advance is we really want to do a big push. Last year we kind of got rained out. Had a couple people attend, but we're going to be in the 800 block of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, which is at the very end before you get to 17. It's going to be between Granby Street and Vance Lane on the opposite side, and where the farm is. We're going to plant 4 tulip poplars. I don't understand the species, but I think that's what they said they were going to plant. So really just the entrance into town, beautification. This is, like I said before, it's one of the steps to be recognized again for 46 years of being Tree City USA.
Are you involving the school children again?
It's going to be at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Last year we did it at 11 or 12. We really want to, in the future, we're going to try and have one at Johnny Homes. We identified some places, at some of like the Chowan County owned the sports fields and different things that add shade there. So we're creating a list of where we want to go, in the future. But we identified as this being an area, for beautification, helping out the neighborhood, that would be a good location this year.
Okay. Any other comments? In recognition of Edenton being named once again Tree City USA, I'd like to enter the following proclamation into the record. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the amount of precious topsoil erosion by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas Edenton has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, I, W. Hackney I, Jr., Mayor of the town of Edenton, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the town of Edenton, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our town's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations, dated this, the 25th day of March in the year 2024. So we'll make sure that that's signed and added to our records. At this time, I'll close our special meeting and open our committee meetings. Our first committee meeting will be the administrative committee, and at this time we will receive an update on the legal status of litigation involving the Confederate monument. I would like to give council and the general public a few cautionary comments. This matter is still in litigation. It's not designed as a question-answer session for the general public to ask questions of our attorney. He is simply here to give us an update, and also counsel, keeping that in mind, and for the very same reasons, if there are any specific questions on how this update might change our legal strategy, or if counsel desires to give our attorney direction once we receive this update, that would be need to be given as a matter of caution to our attorney in closed session, and it's an allowable reason to go into closed session to do that. So with those cautionary remarks, Councilman Miller, I'll hand it over to you and our attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one item of business today, and that's a Confederate monument update. Our town attorney, Hood Ellis, is here with us to provide an update on the current status of the North Carolina Supreme Court ruling on March 22nd to uphold the removal of the Zebulon Vance Monument in Pack Square Park in Asheville, and Hood will hopefully explain how that ruling impacts the town of Edenton's current litigation. Also, Hood will share his insight on the recent unanimous ruling by the North Carolina Court of Appeals panel to reject a lawsuit calling for the removal of the Confederate monument in front of the Alamance County Courthouse in Graham, North Carolina, and how that particular ruling relates to our current situation here in Edenton. Mayor, this recent North Carolina Court of Appeals ruling in Alamance County has caused some confusion among many of our citizens who are questioning how it relates to our Confederate monument issue at this time. So, Hood, would you mind give us an update? Appreciate it.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I was looking back today to sort of give a little teeny bit of a chronology. You adopted February 8, 2022, a resolution to permanently relocate the Confederate monument that's outside this building. On March 14, 2023, you adopted a further resolution to move it to Hollowell Park as a site of similar prominence, honor, visibility, and availability and access within the boundaries of the town in compliance with the law we were working under. Thereafter, the lawsuit was filed by the United Daughters of the Confederacy against the town to restrain us from relocating the monument. And Judge Jerry Tillett, who's the senior resident judge of our district, entered that restraining order almost a year ago, March 30, 2023. In the order, he indicated that he was, one of the things he was waiting on was a decision in the City of Asheville case that has been mentioned previously. That dealt with a monument to Governor Vance, Zebulon Vance. And it was a decision challenging, again, the United Daughters, well, in this case, it was the Society for the Historical Preservation of the 26 North Carolina Troops versus the City of Asheville, challenging their decision to relocate the monument. So again, it was similar to us in that we had made a decision to relocate the monument. Asheville had made that same decision, as did the county commissioners in Buncombe County. The decision was, the court ended up saying that the plaintiff did not have standing to challenge that decision. And that decision was affirmed by the Supreme Court of North Carolina 3 days ago, March 22, 2024. And, you know, standing is a sort of complicated, and I'm not going to try to educate anybody on how you go about finding it, but again, what the court said basically was that the plaintiffs had not alleged a significant interest, said they failed to identify any legal right conferred by the common law, state or federal statute, or the state or federal constitutions of which they had been deprived by the city and the county's conduct. Which again went back, they cited the city of Winston-Salem, which was the initial case that was dismissed for lack of standing. And they said that, they noted that case and said that similarly that standing had been not found in that particular case. So in this Asheville case, the court affirmed the dismissal of the lower court. And they did so, again, contending that there was no standing of the plaintiffs to challenge the action that had been taken by the local governments. The other case that Mr. Miller mentioned in Alamance County was, in my opinion, probably a little more helpful to where we are, because it spoke to the law we're operating under. If you remember, the general statute that we're operating under was GS 100-2.1, protection of monuments, memorials, and works of art. And that statute, again, is what we relied upon when we just made our decision to relocate the monument. We had to find an exception to this law, which generally, as a general rule, says you can't move them. But you can, if there are exceptions, and there are exceptions, if you can fit within one, then you can remove it. So in this case, we did use as an exception where we were going to reconfigure the median out in front of this building as the basis for relocating the monument to a Howell Park, a position of similar prominence, that type of thing. And the Alamance County, again, was a little bit of a different case from our case, because Alamance County, the commissioners had said no, that we're not going to move the monument that was in front of the courthouse. So they were sued by the NAACP and some others, saying that, you know, that decision was unconstitutional and that the county should be ordered to relocate the monument. And Chief Judge Dillon, Chris Dillon of the North Carolina Supreme Court, in a unanimous opinion of a 3-judge panel, said that the county was within their rights not to relocate the monument. But they went forward and discussed, which I found helpful, the exceptions. And they said, again, the county in that case had not, you know, they had not found any of those exceptions. They've not tried to rely upon any of those exceptions. And so that was helpful in their discussion of it, because they also, one of the exceptions we talked about before was if there was a danger to public safety. That was a justification, an exception in the statute for relocating the monument. And if you remember, the School of Government had suggested, well, does that mean physically, or does that mean if there's place for protests? You know, what constitutes a danger to the public safety? Well, this Alamance County answered that question and said it's structural. It's got to be a physical danger, not simply that it's an object where people go to protest. So that was helpful in that regard. But again, that's not the exception we relied upon to relocate the monument. What we relied upon was that we had found another use, a reconfiguration of this area in front of the municipal building, and that's the justification we were using to relocate the monument to a place of similar prominence and to satisfy that statutory exception. So in light of where we are today with these two cases, and namely the one case that Judge Tillett specifically wanted to wait until it was decided, I have sent an email to Judge Tillett's trial court administrator and said that as far as we know, from the town's perspective, we're ready to have the hearing, to go ahead and get a decision on the merits in terms of to dissolve the restraining order so we can move the monument. I don't have a date yet. On the other side, I've dealt with their counsel and conferred a little bit with him, and he says that they've got another filing they're gonna make in the case, and I don't know what, he wouldn't tell me what it was. He said he was talking to his clients about it, and they got another filing they're gonna make, and he had given me some dates that he was not available, and you know, we've communicated that to Judge Tillett's office, and now we're waiting on a date upon which he tells us hopefully that we can appear and argue and try to get a decision on the merits. That, you know, again, if it goes the way that the council has voted, hopefully we'll get permission to go ahead and move the monument. That's about all I've got for an update, but I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent I can.
And before any council members ask Mr. Ellis any questions, Mr. Ellis, I would ask your assistance if it's a question that should not be answered in open session. Would you so notify us of that?
I'll try to avoid giving away the ranch.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like for you to explain or affirm what my experience has been in setting a court date so that the general public can know how that generally operates. And you touched upon that briefly, but in my experience, and I think probably Mr. Dixon's experience, the attorneys get together and there are certain dates that we're just not available, whether it's vacation, other litigation and things like that. And you agree upon some blackout dates that, hey, I'm not available, you're not available, and you send those dates to the judge, and the judge then tells us when to show up. Is that a fair statement?
A very fair description. And in this case, it's a little bit unusual because the judge retained jurisdiction of this case. We can't go ask another judge who's available sooner can, get in front of him to hear it. The Judge Tillett has retained jurisdiction of this case, which means he's got to be the one to hear the motion to dissolve the restraining order. And he's got a session of court May 27th. The lawyers know, they get a master calendar for the 6 months, and again, it shows where Judge Tillett's going to be every week. And there's some criminal sessions, and then there's some civil sessions, and we had a session here, a civil session in Chowan in February, we had last week in February, and that's the only civil session we get in Chowan. I have one civil session every 6 months. So the next place we could get in front of him in this district would be the DARE session, which I think is the week of May 27th. I have no clue whether he's going to, I asked in my email that's the last civil session I saw he had for the rest of this 6 months, and that if he wanted to set it sooner special setting somewhere else, and we were game for that, so we'll see what he says.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
A lot to process over the last
Yeah,
couple of days, and I appreciate it.
Yep, hopefully we're getting closer to a decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mayor, that's all we have.
Okay, thank you, as always, Councilman Miller. The next committee meeting and report is from the Finance Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Dixon. And this is for a council and manager travel request for the City Vision Conference that's held by the League of Municipalities coming up later in the year. And I'll hand that over to Councilman Dixon and also to Corey Good.
So, you know, there are two of, Corey's gonna go, I think, and Aaron's gonna go, and, the cost of the trip is $1591.65 for Councilman Colston, and the cost of the trip for our town manager is $1291.65, and I think the only difference is the mileage for the town's vehicle, and I guess we can just send that on to full council for approval if anybody has a problem with it. It's expensive to go places now. But we need to
It is, and I think it's probably timely to mention to those of you that don't know what the North Carolina League of Municipalities is, but it's an organization here in North Carolina that advises and gives best practices to municipalities such as Edenton throughout the state. And our League of Municipalities is recognized nationally as one of the strongest organizations to give advice and counsel to towns. So it's certainly something that we want to remain in contact with those folks and make sure that we have a presence at their functions.
I think we also hear about grant-making opportunities and networking, and I think it's just really important we're there.
And also, due to everyone else's schedules, I'd like to thank Manager Gooden and Councilman Costin for being able to go. There were various conflicts with some of the other council members, and like I said, it's important for us to maintain a presence at those. At this time, I would consider a motion to close our open session and enter into closed session. Does anybody have a motion?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. At this time, I'm going to declare our open session closed, and we're going to enter into closed session, and we'll open up the door as soon as we're finished with that closed session. I thank each and every one of you for being here tonight.